Hi everyone, this is Erin from Sandpaper Road, and today I'm sharing with you a process video of how I made this Courage Encouragement card. Calling it that because the name of the stamp set is Courage, and it's new from Technique Junkies in November of 2021. This is a really, really beautiful stamp. I love it. Now, I didn't want to cut the actual stamp apart to separate the lion head from the quote, so I'm going to show you how I color in the lion head and also have a crispy stamped sentiment. It's fairly easy to do. I'm using some Distress Oxide ink to start, and this is antique linen, and I'm really not that concerned right now about the sentiment side, but I'm going to use a Nuvo water brush pen and just write on to the stamped image of the Distress with the Distress Oxide. I'm just going to blend in the ink while it's drying onto the face and the mane of the lion. Now it looks a little bit blurry and smudgy right now. Obviously it's not going to be like that in the final result, but this is going to give the look that we want, and you can just see it blends real easily. Even if the ink was dry, that water pen would still blend really well. And that's how that first layer looks. You can choose any colors you want. Actually, I am going to shoot it with a heat gun real quick before I continue, just to make sure that the little bit of water that I had out of the water pen is dry off the surface. Once we're using these distress products, you know, they do have, especially the regular inks, you know, they are water-based. The Oxide inks have that pigment property in it as well, but yeah, water on water just doesn't look good. I'm adding some washi tape because once I added heat, it kind of made the paper bow just a little bit. And I'm going to wipe off that oxide off of the surface of the stamp before I continue. And I'm just using just a microfiber cloth I had just in my cupboard. Now I'm going in with the Distress Oxide. This is Vintage Photo, so it's a little bit darker. And that looks fantastic. It looks really good, just like that. I actually considered just leaving it like that. In honesty, I don't remember that I even used the regular Distress ink at all in this project. I think I just had it there just because that was what I was intending. So now I'm going to be a little bit more, I think, choosy with my blending. I'm going to do that same exact technique, but I'm not trying to take away from the antique linen that I already blended. So I'm just going every here and there to blend in with that Vintage Photo, paying special attention to the features on the lion's face. The stamp is really nice because it gives me some suggestions basically on where the highlights are. And you can see what the water pen does. It just really helps to blend that in a little bit. I like using the oxide because once that oxidation starts to take effect with the water, you almost get like a third color that you didn't intend, and it's really nice when using stamps like this that you're coloring in. So I'm just trying to add just a little bit more natural, you know, a natural blend with the features of the face of the lion there, as you saw. Now I'm going to go in, I'm happy with that look, so now I want to go in with like a good finishing stamp, like a good finishing ink. And I really could not decide between the coffee archival ink and the jet black archival ink. Well, I went ahead with the jet black, and I'm glad I did. So you could see I put it on the lion's head there, and then I really wanted to get a good juicy image, like a good juicy stamp. I didn't want to stamp it multiple times. Now I'm going in with my microfiber cloth, and I'm actually wiping off the edges, the outside edges of where I place the ink. I just want a good solid outline in the center. That is exactly what I wanted. I love it. And I think sometimes the hardest part of a card maker's job is knowing when to just stop. So I was very happy with the way that looked. I love the black crispy outline of the face, and then how it just gradually eased into the blend of the lion. I like how he's got that antique linen look of the face. This is going to be a really nice flat card to send. Now I turn the paper around and I'm going to stamp now I'm concentrating on getting a good sentiment. I'm really looking to make sure that sentiment came out good and crispy and clear. And that's going to be where I'm going to use that sentiment and that colored in lion head. So instead of die cutting out the lion head, as you might think, I'm using the die to make the good cut out of the sentiment. That's the part that's going to go on the card. That's the main part that, with the lion head, get it? Main part. I did not. Oh my. That's the main part. Yeah. Funny. So I'm using, it's a stitched circle die from Creekbank Creations, actually. I really like their dies. Now, don't worry about that right now. We're going to put that lion head over top. So it really doesn't matter it doesn't matter at all about that. Before I do anything with that colored lion head, I'm going to add a little effect. I'm taking some iridescent Shimmering Bliss spray, and I am going to just very lightly, like 2 or 3 times, I'm going to spritz that lion face. I don't want to overdo it because remember we used Oxide inks, and I don't want too much of a reaction here with the inks. So just a little bit. It's going to add just a hint of shimmer to just the lion head and nothing else. So I hit that with a heat gun, and I'm not sure that you can see it right here on camera. Probably not. I can barely see it myself. And now I'm going to just get rid of that there. I always save like a good scrap for something I need later. But this part, now I'm going to spend some good detail time, and I'm going to fussy cut out with my detail scissors that lion head. I'm going to really take my time and do a good job and cut that out. It takes a few minutes, and I will save you the pain of watching me fussy cut, and I will edit the video and you'll see the final result here. So that's what it looks like once I fussy cut out. And now all I have to do is glue that right over top. And I even have a little bit of a guide because some of that ink from the sentiment, like see where the black leaked over into where the lion head would be? That's fine because now I have a guide of exactly where to put the lion head. So I'm using some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and just adhering that down. And it looks absolutely fantastic. And I've got a little bit of shimmer just on the lion head, and people will ask, how did you do that? But as you saw, it really wasn't that difficult at all. You just have to think in pieces instead of in single units, and everything is just a shape, and you can manipulate shapes however you want. So I'm using some Summer Charm pattern paper. This is by Craft a Clock. It is available at the Sandpaper Road shop. I love it. And I thought that would be so perfect. I really wanted that butterfly and those flowers to show through though. And it looks like that circle is going to cover that up. But I have a little trick for that because it's just paper and we can do whatever we want with paper. So I'm going to take my craft knife and just put a little, I'm just going to cut right around just one part there. I'm not going to cut out the whole butterfly, but I am just going to cut right along the lines of just the top of that butterfly. And you'll see it doesn't take very long. And there's just a little slit. And I also did it there with that side butterfly, just a little bit. I don't have to cut the whole thing out and go crazy. Just a little bit, and a little bit of the flower there and that flower over there. And now I can fit the circle right in and it does what I want it to do. I wanted it to look like that, and so I made it look like that. Now this is a 6x6 paper pad, and I don't like to limit myself to card sizes. I wanted it to have that whole sheet of paper, that whole 6x6 sheet, or at least most of it. So I'm going to make a 6x6 card. I don't have to make just a little tiny card if I don't want to. So I made a 6x6 card base, and I trimmed off just about 1/4 of an inch or so on the pattern paper, and just eyeballing it. So now it fits perfectly right onto the 6x6 card base. It looks really good. Now I'm going to add some, this is some frayed burlap Distress Oxide ink. And I'm just going to ink around the edges. I did trim the paper, remember, just now. And so sometimes if you trim paper, you could actually make it look like you didn't trim paper. You can actually make it look like it came that way just by inking the outside edges. Or if your card that you're using, if you're like, it just seems like it needs something and you don't know what it is, maybe just ink around the outside edges of your card panel, and that often gives it the pop that you're looking for. Now I'm also adding just a thin bit of the black soot around the edges as well, so that way the blend part that you see that goes into the paper is brown, but the outside edge is black, and I like that look. Plus, that matches what we did with the lion, so it all goes together. I did get ink all over my fingers, as usual, but that's just fine. Now, I will say that in hindsight, what I should have done is I ended up using some paint spatter in just a minute or so, and what I should have done is waited to glue the circle on. I should have just gone right ahead and done the paint spatter before that, but I didn't think of the paint spatter at this point in the card, so oh well, no big deal. And it's really simple. I just glued it right in and popped those flowers and the butterfly up, and that's the end of that. That's just pretty simple. So don't ever worry that if you're using pattern paper and you're like, oh, this is covering that up, this is covering that up. It's just paper. Just make it do what you want it to do. It doesn't always, it doesn't control you. You control the paper. This is some Scor Tape. It's double-sided. That's what I was trying to say all at the same time. And now I just put the card panel right on the card base, and I will end up making my own envelope with my envelope punch board because I don't have a 6x6 envelope. That looks fantastic. I really like it a lot. Here's where I decided I was going to go ahead and make some paint spatter. Paint is in air quotes because I didn't actually use paint. I used Distress Oxide ink. And these are just scrap papers. See how I'm covering up the image because I didn't want the paint spatter there? That's what I mean. I should have just waited. So just spray a little bit of water, a paintbrush, and I use an acrylic block so I don't mess up the whole table. And I'm just dragging the wet ink, just like dragging it right off the edge. And that creates a really nice spatter. It's a little bit more controlled than trying to flick it. So, yeah. And then when I pulled off the scrap paper, everything stayed just the way I wanted it. And I have a little bit of spatter just in the corners, which looks fantastic. Yeah, so thanks so much for watching. And you can check the description box for where you can get these stamps. And thank you for subscribing. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.